Hello everyone, welcome to the first of the Code Cyclone UDK tutorials. My name is Chris Burkhardt, I'm the lead software developer over at Code Cyclone. And what we're going to do today is go over installing the UDK and of course getting our first package and game running. So first off, what you're going to do is go over and open your web browser and navigate to udk.com. Now as soon as the page loads, you should be able to see that there's a download link right here for the November or whichever month you're in, it'll show that month. That is the current build. However, say for any more of our advanced users want to go back and use a different build, you can always hit download UDK and look at some previous versions. Fortunately, I already have one installed, so I'm not going to bother wasting your time by installing a completely new one, but if you were to, you would just simply click on it. You'll see the download start here, you'll hit keep, and it'll start going. And depending on your internet connection, it'll take a fair amount of time. Typically about an hour depending on what your connection is. So what we're going to do is, now that we've done that, let's go ahead and next side of that. Once everything's installed, you're going to see inside your C drive there's going to be a UDK directory, and just as a note for those of you who built your own PCs, if you made your root drive something else other than C, that will be the drive you'll look in, just in case you weren't sure. But anyways, inside the UDK folder, you'll see the current build, or whichever one you installed, it'll be the UDK the year the month of the build you got. So as you can see here, I got September of 2011. And what you should want to do is, just so you have a fresh copy, you're going to copy that into the same directory as I've done here. Now, this tutorial in particular is going to teach you how to make a game from the ground up, and what we're going to call that game is Generic Shooter. So we're going to go ahead and rename this Generic Shooter. And we're going to go ahead and open this up, go into the development folder, the source folder. Now inside here is where the entire engine's engine and game's Unreal script will lie. So what you're going to do is go in here, is make a new folder, and we'll call it Generic Shooter with no spaces. Alright, you can't have spaces in these names. It tends to throw things off a little bit. And inside, you're going to make another folder. We'll call it Classes. And you're going to open this up. And just for the sake of saving you guys some time, I've gone ahead and made our four basic files. And that is going to be gsgame.uc, gshud.uc, gspawn.uc, and gsplayercontroller.uc. And I'll go ahead and open these up so we can see what's inside of them. Let's increase that a little. Okay. So let's start off with gsgame. This actually should be gsgame. There we go. Excellent. So first off, we're going to make a class called gsgame, and it's going to extend from UDK game. And what this is basically saying, for those of you that are new to Unreal Script, is that we're going to make a game class that is extending off the UDK's base game class. And just as a good practice, I always like to make a little comment header at the top about the status and version and whatever's going on, and if there's changes needing to be done, I'll put it in here. Alright, and that's all that entails. Then gshud is going to extend the UT HUD. It has no default properties right now. And just, again, for those of you who are new at this, this can be capitalized or however you want. I like to have it all pretty much titleized. And what this default properties does is since Unreal does not allow you to initialize variables at definition, default properties allows you to do that without having to do it in code, so it's not a lot of, int c semicolon, and then under that c is equal to 0, you can just do int c colon for your global variables only, of course, and then in default properties set all of your variables properties right there, and it's nice and very manageable. And of course we go to gspawn, and we're going to extend utpawn out of that, though we get all the nice classes that go with it. And I've defined two properties here. The ground speed, which is going to be equal to 900, and this is your running speed. And then your jump z, which is your jumping height, which, actually we're going to make this 500. We will make it 500. Okay. And then finally, we have our player controller. which we call GS player controller. It's going to extend the UT player controller. And all this is think of it this way. You got a car, and even though you're driving that car, it's really the steering wheel that's controlling it. You're twisting it, sure, you're making the commands go in, but the player controller is kind of that steering wheel. You, as a player, click the mouse, tap on the keyboard, but all that's doing is the engine is sending commands to the player controller, and the player controller is interpreting those commands and modifying the pawn or whatever else it's attached to, whether it be AI or whatnot. Alright, so we have all four of those, and just again, they're going to be inside our generic shooter / classes folder. And just in case you guys ever get curious, so I can make a good point of this, say for instance you wanted to look at a different file, like you had to find the UT rocket launcher, for example. You could go into UT game classes, and I believe it's UT wep, and it's going to be, there it is, rocket launcher. And you can actually look at Unreal's rocket launcher. It's very useful if you guys ever get confused during the tutorials where I might have pulled something. Take for example the jump Z. You can actually find it defined way back in whichever pawn class it was. I believe it's actually just pawn. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump back to the root folder of our UDK directory, and we're going to go into UDK game, and then all the way into, where is it? Configuration. Now in here we're going to open up a few files just so we can make note of them. Default editor.ini, default engine.ini, and default game.ini. And let's go ahead and open those up. Okay, so let's go to default game first, because that's more or less one of the important ones. Now as you can see here, we got a couple things right off the bat that are defined. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so we don't have to scroll as much. Okay. So first off, we have a couple of different things defined. Since we haven't done anything with Scaleform or the HUD yet, we should probably leave the default game type, since we can define that later on. What we are going to do, though, is set a default map prefix. So we're going to copy that line, and our prefix, just for now, will be GS, and it's going to be generic shooter, which is our folder that we made in the development folder. So generic shooter dot, so which this is counting as a /, our game's name, which is GS game. And you can actually go ahead and copy this. It's going to be very useful since we're going to be using it a lot. And what this is basically saying is that when you load a map with the prefix of GS, this is the game type we use. Nice and simple. Oh, excellent. Cool. Alright, next thing we're going to do. You can see here that we got a couple game definition headers right here. What we're going to do is copy the UT game one, and of course place our version in there. And we'll make the default score, we'll make it 50. What the hell. It's not a tournament, player must be ready. Yeah, we'll make that true. And this other stuff doesn't really matter. You can actually erase this stuff too. Okay. And time limit we'll make infinity. Excellent. Alright, let's keep scrolling down. Don't got any new weapons to add. No mutators. We should be coming up on it. There it is. Alright. Go ahead and paste that again. And at the very bottom of our game types, let's go ahead and add ours. Make sure I grab my copy of the thing that I did here. Alright. So this is going to be GS game. Set our game mode as the correct one. These we can leave alone. The default map, we haven't made it yet, but we will call it GS hallway. Or just hallway, there we go. And then this is where we set our prefix, which is GS, and our option set, which is GS. Okay. And just so we don't have to come back later on, we're going to keep going down to deathmatch options right here. And for each one of these, what we're going to do is copy and paste that. And you're going to add plus option set is equal to GS for each one that you want. Bot skill is one of them. Number of bots is always nice. Verse bots doesn't really matter. What your score is, how much time you want. Bot team doesn't matter. Force respawn is something you might want. All right, and you can go through this this file. I mean, it's got a lot of different configurations. You can just toy with them, figure it out. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is go to Default Editor. And the only reason I brought this one up is I want you guys to look through it. It has a couple different things, and if you go to Default Editor too, that allow you just to see a couple different configurations that'll be useful later, so just make sure you're used to it. Alright, but aside from that, there's nothing you're changing in here. And then finally, the most important one out of all of these, since it links up our package, is the default engine.ini. And what you're going to do is go down to where it says Unreal Editor.Editor Engine and do plus edit package, or packages, sorry, is going to be equal to generic shooter. Now the reason this is so important is this is saying, hey, I have an extra package here, and it's generic shooter. It's going to tell the engine that there's code inside this folder that it needs to parse and sequentially compile into its Unreal package. Alright, and that's it for this. So we can actually kick out of all these, make sure they're all good. Alright, now we're back in here. Let's go back to the generic shooter root directory, go to binaries, and we're going to go all the way down until we see Unreal front end. Alright. Now what you're going to see here, there was a bunch of things here, I just deleted them real quick. And you're going to go ahead and set this to UDK game on the PC, and this stuff doesn't matter. Alright, we're going to remove you. And you're going to add some maps to it. You're going to add DM deck. And you're going to add the UDK front end, because that's important, that's our menu. Alright, and that's actually good for now. We don't need anything else for the time being. So we'll add those. Now what you're going to want to do is overwrite your default start and make sure it's always UDK front end, because sometimes it can get confused. Okay, and let's rename this guy generic shooter. That's more or less just for you, so you can see what's going on there. Alright, and we're going to try compiling our scripts, so you're going to hit script and then compile scripts. And of course you're going to want to allow access to it. If you're on a Windows 7 machine, it's going to ask you. And as you can see here, it's slowly going through and compiling all the different packages that are inside that configuration file. And it actually should be coming to ours in a minute. Ooh, we actually got an error. Let's take a look. GS HUD. So we go back to generic shooter, development source, generic shooter, there it is, classes. And then we go to our HUD. Let's open that puppy up. Ah, yes, it is correct. If you guys can't tell, I forgot my semicolon. So we plug that puppy in, clear that, try that again. And this time it should run right through and say, hey, you're good to go. And as always, your package should probably be last in this build. Not always, but most of the time it will be. Alright, so what we're going to do next is hit start. And what this is going to do is it's going to compile your scripts and then cook all your assets, which are art, levels, models, anything that your game's using or referencing. It will build and make sure that it's good to go at runtime. This tends to take a little bit the first time through. Fortunately, I've used this thing a couple times. Hopefully it won't take too long. If it does, you'll see a little skip in the video. But just while I got a sec, I'm going to give you guys some information. First off, if you haven't yet, check out the links under this video that are going to be on the Code Cyclone page of this video, not in the YouTube. So if you're in YouTube and watching this, go to our website at codecyclone.com to check out all the other tutorials, as well as supplementary files and links that will go with these tutorials to help you become a better Unreal Script programmer and just UDK user in general. Oh, we actually got it pretty fast. Excellent. Let's go ahead and turn down the volume so you guys don't have to hear that. As you can see, we got a nice thing popped up. And of course, we got instant action. Go to our game mode, and you can see generic shooter.gsGame, and that's our game type. Of course, it's looking for GS hallway, which we don't have, and since we don't have any GS maps, there's going to be nothing there. But, I mean, that is our game type, so this tutorial was a success if you've reached this point. As always, guys, if you have any issues, feel free to email us at the videos at codecyclone.com or post comments in the video section. All right, thanks, guys. Take care.